The fundamental issue really, it's not emotions. It can seem like it's really just about getting rid of this one emotion. If I could just not feel so angry all the time, or if I could just not be so afraid all the time, ashamed, sad, whatever that is, right? If only I could just be happy, which is totally natural, right? We all want that. The fundamental issue, though, is not the emotion. Actually, what it is, it's, yes, there's repression of the emotion, but why does the repression even happen in the first place? Okay, ultimately, it's that when we're really young, we learn to identify with our thoughts. So mind identification is really just this very subtle thing that happens where the mind kind of turns inward and it's like, okay, this is me. These are my thoughts. I am the one that's angry. I'm in here. I have to do something about it. And it's a very subtle thing that happens. And then all this internal conflict then arises where now we're trying to resolve these feelings through thinking. If only I can just figure this out, right? If only I can just have the right thought, the right idea, figure out what to do, then everything will be okay. Then this feeling will go away, right? This fundamental restless feeling, this dissatisfaction. If I could just figure out the right thing to do, find the right belief, find myself, right? Whatever that is. And ultimately, we want to get rid of the feelings, yes, but what's really going on even deeper than that is that there's an identification that's going on. There's a sense of me that I'm the one that's experiencing these emotions and I have to do something about it. Now, this may seem so obvious to you, actually, because it's so taboo to even question this. But when you go really deep in meditation and inquiry, shadow work, that sense of me starts to dissolve. And then a lot of fear can arise, actually. So, and actually then that inspires an even more subtle sort of layer of identity to come up, which is actually identify with that fear. So it's like there's a part of you that wants to push away these emotions, right? That's one identity. But then there's a really deep identity that's like, okay, this is actually me and I need this. And I'm really afraid to lose this. So I got to keep going. I got to keep struggling, actually. And this causes so much suffering. Because in essence, we're trying to push away ourselves. Like you're trying to get rid of yourself, actually. The fear that you're trying to get rid of, and by you, I mean the part of us that wants to resolve it, fix it, right? The resistance. But what is it trying to get rid of is just another part of you, which is fear, restlessness. But there's a very subtle sense of me that takes itself to be apart. It's like I'm apart from this feeling, I have to get rid of it. And when that starts to dissolve, actually, then a really, really subtle layer of, wait a second, this is actually me and I really need this. I really need this fear, actually. So then you start to really notice the struggling that's going on all the time, where it's like, I'm trying to get rid of this feeling, which is actually me, and I don't really want to get rid of this feeling at all. So no wonder there's so much struggling and suffering. But what if we drop all that, though? What if we drop that struggle and just stay with the direct experience? Just stay with the sensations, stay with the restlessness, and notice how it feels like me. Right? It's very subtle. Or it might not be very subtle at all. It's actually quite obvious. It's very, what's the word? It's kind of the elephant in the room. And when you start to notice it, it's like, oh yeah, wait, yeah, obviously, yeah, that is me, isn't it? Wait, isn't it? So exploring that's actually interesting because what feels like me, right, the struggling, what feels like me has kind of been there for so long that we don't even question it. We don't really look into it. We just kind of assume that it's obviously the case. But there's a very subtle thought, actually. The identity is a very subtle thought. And that thought can actually be looked at. The thought is simply, this is me. I am. This is me. Me, me, me. Right? That's the thought. We don't have to change that, actually, because whatever tries to change that is just another thought, another resistance. So we don't actually need to change that, but we can just notice, oh yeah, it does feel like me. And it feels like I'm in here. It feels like I'm thinking, I'm doing. But are you? Or is that just what's happening? Are you actually doing anything? Or is it just there's a restless movement that's happening? Feels like me. Sometimes it feels good. Sometimes it doesn't. And then there's more struggle when it doesn't feel good. So what happens when you stay with this sense of me? Just in terms of your direct experience, remember, we don't actually have to get rid of anything. Just with curiosity, we can explore this feeling of me, the identity of me. And I'm not talking abstract here, right? There's no need to even think about this. It's just a very obvious sense of I'm right here, right? I'm right here. And it's kind of like in the middle of the body. Like I'm right here somewhere, kind of, right? Somewhere right in the middle. Maybe in the head, behind the eyes, in the jaw, face, chest, belly. Where does it feel like you are right now? And what happens when attention just stays with that feeling of me, the felt sense of me, without trying to change it or do anything with it? Because it's like there's a reactivity, right? There's a sense of like, oh, this is me, I gotta do something, I gotta do something, I gotta do something. I gotta get this, or I gotta get that, or I gotta push away this, right? So it's constantly pushing or trying to pull, like I need this, or I don't want this. But what happens when we just kind of stay with that movement and not try to change it? It's almost like a river, right? It's kind of like a river that's moving. Any sense of wanting to do something about it is actually part of the same river. It's part of the same movement. It's trying to get rid of itself. So, what happens when we stay right here? What happens when we don't react? Or rather, what happens when we notice the reaction? Because you don't actually have to stop the reaction, because again, that's more resistance. See, language is really hard here. It's hard to talk about this. It's a very subtle thing that I'm pointing to. There's no effort. If there's effort, notice where does it originate? Where is the tightness? Where is the contraction? Where effort originates? And stay right there. See, it's so subtle. It's so simple. But very quickly, you'll notice another movement. But what about this? But what about that? Here's a problem. Here's this. I got to chase that. Oh, there it is. Now you're present again. Just noticing it, right? Just noticing it is all we got to do. So you're always trying to seek freedom from this. But what happens when we kind of just give that up and just go right into it? Notice how attention actually starts to expand outward naturally. Not that you're trying to force it to go outward, but when you stay with a contraction that feels like me, just rest. Not trying to get rid of it, not trying to get apart from it. You notice how then awareness, your sense of attention just kind of naturally moves outward, right, into the colors, into the scenery, into the sounds. So just letting that happen. No need to actually control attention because it's very intelligent. It knows where to go, what to do. Very effortless. And if another restless movement arises, you get pulled in, there's thoughts, me, I gotta do this. Come back to the body. Notice exactly where is that contraction. It's almost always somewhere like right in the middle, right? Face, throat, jaw, chest, belly. Go into it and just be with it. Notice how it feels like me. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you notice that, what happens? It's very subtle. It's not going to be fireworks, most likely. Just a very gentle sense of ease, peace, openness, space. But it's very ordinary, it's neutral. It's not what the mind is looking for. The mind is looking for fireworks. It's also trying to get rid of itself, remember? The restlessness is trying to get rid of itself. It's never going to happen. So what happens when we just rest with the restlessness? Rest in it. Feel it as it is, moment by moment. The sensations. Isn't there a little more freedom now? The mind might say, no, this is not what I want. I need something else. And that's okay. We can notice that thought. And instantly the sense of struggle drops. And now you're here. So keep coming back here. And keep trusting it. Trusting that it's okay to just be here. And it doesn't matter what is coming up for you. It doesn't matter what thoughts are coming up. It doesn't matter what feelings are coming up. It all comes from the same place. And it's all happening here. So letting identity drop away like this, it's very subtle, and it doesn't happen through force or effort. It's just very gently, with curiosity, exploring the sense of me that wants to react, that wants to do something, think, figure it out. Oh yeah, there it is. It's happening right now. Where do you feel it? Where's the contraction? Where's the energy in the body that says, this is me? Feel it. And really, don't just like feel it like as if you're some passive witness. Like really let attention go into it fully. There's no gap. Let attention merge with the sensations that feel like me. trusting that this is exactly what needs to happen. Trusting this movement, this penetrating kind of movement where you're just going right into it. Feeling it, getting closer and closer until there's no gap. And then staying right there. Nothing to do. Nowhere to go. And yet, strangely, that's okay. And if it doesn't feel like it is, if there's a part of you that says, no, this is not okay, feel it. Where do you feel that not okay? Can you make room for it? Can you give that feeling permission to be here? So in this way, you're going directly to the source. You're going right in, which is exactly where we need to go, especially if you want peace and freedom.